So we introduced a concept called software-defined networking. So if you really don't know your networking stuff, CCNA is a good place to start. It generally is. No, in all fairness, like the responsibilities of the IT pro and the IT admin in general are going to widen across the network. Now, I do realize you might sit there and go, never happened in my environment, don't believe you, blah, 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 blah. Absolutely, understand that point. But it's coming. It's the start of an industry trend. If you think the likes of Cisco with their Nexus 1000, if you think all the other vendors, Brocade are doing something really crazy on switches now as well.
Is this a bit like HP's Flex 10?
Oh, it's even madder than that. So.
What I showed earlier would be the software more flexible version of Flex 10 does. This is something more magical.
So again, going back to your single pane of glass, because it's true, it does happen. We do have it. You just have to configure it and spend time doing it. Not the 2 or 3 days. That's put loads of things together and pretend to integrate them. Yeah, you actually have to spend time doing this and getting it right. And when you do get it right, it actually works exceptionally well. So we're introducing this concept called software-defined networking. And now you as the IT pro and IT admin have interfaces into your switches, into your network, where you're able to dynamically reconfigure your entire network environment. How cool would that be? I have to ask why the giggle.
Just because it sounds incredible, but like...
That's all I need to know. It sounds incredible. I'm only messing.
Are any large data centers using this technology at the moment?
Microsoft are.
Oh.
So we'll explain something about this. As Dave and Aidan, and you'll see in many, 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 many more Microsoft presentations, this stuff isn't new to us. We spent a lot of time working with this in our own data centers. We spent a lot of time discovering the problems with it in our own data centers. Azure. It's really important to get it pronounced right because I get really irritated if I don't. So, you know, Azure is just I'm just gonna get angry. I have to be honest. But anyway, the point being is software-defined networking allows you guys to start configuring the network. It gives you guys the interfaces to be able to program out the network. And you want to spin up a new customer or a new network for a project where you need a dedicated IP subnet and all that, fine, do it in the tool. It'll deploy out to the network and the network will reconfigure itself. Are you going to let every IT admin do it? No. That's where it goes back into role-based access. And that's a different, it's not a discussion for today, but there's all these other controls that you have to think. It's common sense to start securing up your environment. God, no. So, you know, the switch that you have for 10 years old, that's the Bay stack, no, that's not going to work. You do, it's a newer generation of technology. So, for example, the Cisco, for your own information, if you want it, Cisco have a public beta now of their Nexus 1000 that you can load up in a VM.
Do you have the 1000 or 1000V?
I think it's the 1000V, apologies. Yeah, so they have an open beta that just went out the other day, or about a week ago or something that you could apply for and actually demo this in your own environment and have a look. Brocade are very close behind, and did you mention one to me earlier on, Aidan? Was it Iron?
Iron Networks have a gateway.
Iron Networks have a gateway. We're going to talk about gateways in a few seconds. So, lovely marketing bump. Flexibility, control, and automation. I love automation. I love flexibility because I really don't like to be constrained by the environments that we're in. I hate the fact that I have a physical 24 ports to work with sometimes. I hate the fact that I have limited command line sets inside an iOS stack. I don't like it. So I'd rather, and I don't like the fact that if I don't have any management tools to be able to go and do a lot of this easily, it really, really depresses me and I don't want to do it. I want to be able to do things quick, fast, repeatable, and get out. We're going to talk later on about a concept of standardization. And this is where you're actually getting to. For all the environments that you work with, you want to standardize them. Why do you want to standardize them? Easier management. You can go to 50 different networks, manage them the exact same way because you know they're standard. And it works out in return on investment and total cost of ownership plummets and it's all great. And everyone's happy and the financial bean counters can go and buy a new Jaguar on Monday morning. Anyway, so control. How many people, especially IT server admins, can go to a dashboard and actually determine whether their network's behaving properly? The right paths are being used, whether you're getting flow control, whether the QoS policies are actually applied, or what some organizations do and say, yeah, we have QoS in the network, and go, no, we don't. It happens. It happens a lot. So this is the point where you want to be able to change a QoS policy because now you want to reprioritize video traffic over voice, or VM traffic, SQL database, or something has become more priority for a period of a week in a month. And I can give you a perfect example where it wasn't used, but it would have been an actual really, really good piece of value during the Queen's visit. I know most people that might be a sensitive subject for, but anyway, during the Queen's visit, the police force of Ireland obviously had a big problem in terms of they had now had an awful lot more active Garda on staff. If they were able to do quality of service dynamically on their network, they would have been able to prioritize the traffic that was going to the Pulse system to be able to prosecute quicker. But instead, they're bound by the traditional laws of networking, which means that they have to put in a 10-week request to get something changed, which is pretty standard in enterprise by the time it goes through all the change control. So being able to react to situations like this on the fly, well, not even on the fly, even with like a couple of days lead time and dynamically able to push out those policies and monitor and maintain them would be a nice thing to do. Because you'll always have performance bottlenecks somewhere in your environment and you won't really know and understand where. Automation, who doesn't love automation? That's good. It's good. Everyone loves automation. Hopefully you get the point of automation. Automation is a very key thing in any IT environment. It goes back down to standardization. Of course, our lovely Server 2012 and System Center 2012 stuff. We'll do it fine. PowerShell, do it fine. Great place to start for automation if you're interested. So let's talk quickly about the Hyper-V switch. So Hyper-V switch in 2008 R2 was okay. Hyper-V switch in 2012 is a different beast altogether. And we really do want to kind of stress that it is a completely different beast. They've made it extensible. They've made it a lot of different things. They've spent an awful lot of time on it. Aidan can talk for months on the Hyper-V switch alone. Days. Okay. Well, hopefully not days. But anyway, my point is that the basic idea of the switch is actually will allow the actual virtual machines out to the network. But now what we can do, we can isolate stuff through port tackles and things like this. Private VLANs, which is kind of cool. We can do traffic shaping on a virtual switch. That'd be pretty cool. Being able to guarantee the performance coming out of the NICs if you want for your databases and so on and so forth. Or guarantee that if you're in your environment that this machine will always get like 80% of the bandwidth versus 20% for a low-end web server that doesn't really do anything bar on a Friday every second month or something. Being able to prioritize that traffic is really cool. As Aidan also mentioned, like you got your DHCP guard, your router guard, and your IPsec task offload. How many people, and I can tell you now it happens an awful lot in Microsoft, how many people have spun up a test environment on their own, in their own network and forgot to turn off the external NIC, and suddenly they're broadcasting onto the network because they've got a new AD. And people are going, what's this Contoso.com? Happens a lot in Microsoft, and I think, Peter, you'd be able to confirm that for definite. So Peter works in one of our internal IT labs, so not that he does it, but no. I know, wait, yes, exactly. So I get regular calls from people in MSIT saying, did you spin up another network? And I'm going, I swear I didn't do it this time. So the point is like being able to block that. DHCP, fantastic. Router guard, the amount of people that think they understand routing and how to configure. I'll just put a RIP server on the network, like routing information protocol, and see what happens. And suddenly people start getting dynamic routes going into an odd network, and they're going, what the hell's happening? I don't know why it's going this way. You know, being able to block those particular advertisements is crucial. IPsec task offload. This is something that you guys might do now and might not. If you guys spend a lot of time with in security organizations, end-to-end encryption of traffic is really important. It's not really important in an awful lot of Irish enterprises for some strange reason, but it's there. It does happen. But being able to offload that from inside the VM down onto the switch and down onto the actual physical hardware is really crucial because it just takes time away from CPU cycles, giving more performance back to the machine. All up. Dynamic virtual machine queue for prioritization of traffic going out onto the NIC. Port mirroring. Oh my God, this was just such a fantastic feature. Who loves snooping networks? Who loves looking at wire traces? No, seriously, do you not love it? I really need to get a life. I really thinking of this. ETW tracing. If you know what ETW tracing is, I really say that. I apologize in advance. But if you're looking at event tracing with inside Windows when you're doing a support job, most of the times you look at CAP files in terms of the network monitor and how Kerberos authenticates and going back and forth and SYNACT and all those wonderful things. It's incredibly boring, but we still have to do it. The fact that you can now do tracing on the switch and actually figure what's going on right from the router to VM, because a lot of VM NICs didn't support promiscuous mode, so you always got spurious results when you were actually doing your network tracing. So if it's of interest to you, it's there now, it's fantastic and it's good, in my opinion. The next thing that we've done is extensions. So one of the things that the other guys were good at was being able to provide like an inbound like firewall for your VMs. Cool feature. We can do it now. Want to do some other capture or traffic analysis or statistics or more detailed chargeback? Just wait for a company to write an extension. Or even if you're a programmer, write the extension yourself. All the APIs are publicly available. There's no secret sauce to this. It's all there. If you're that way inclined, developer, even though this is an IT pro audience, you might be a developer at heart and just, closet developer or something. But the point is we can do it. You can plug it in. And what's really good about this switch versus the other guy's switch is that we can have multiple extensions turned on at any one time, whereas the other guys can't. So you could have multiple captures, you can have multiple filters, and you can have multiple firewalls and multiple AV engines and whatever floats your boat. But we can have it, we can do it, and it's all good. So open platform to field plugins, free core services, reliability and quality. This is all marketing, wonderful. Unified management. And the unified management in conjunction with the virtual networks is where we're going to. And we're going to explain it too. So, lovely complicated slide. Everyone understand it? Fantastic. Don't worry too much. What I want you to kind of realize is the virtual network names that span across the different hosts. Logical networks are designed to help you try and standardize. It gives you a layer of abstraction to try and understand. So everyone has heard of the distributed switch? Well, we've done in VMware, and I'm going to say VMware because it's specific to them, but you've ever distributed, awesome feature, being able to configure one single switch and apply it to all different hosts and have that kind of management and stuff, capabilities. Well, we're there now in Server 2012 with Virtual Machine Manager. Logical networks is the start of it. We have a thing called a logical switch which is attached to it, and I'm going to show it to you in more detail in a couple of seconds. But the logical network is the abstraction where you can apply a logical network, create IP pools against that logical network, assign IPs to VMs that are being deployed automatically, and have one point of reference. Because I know it's Contoso, the VM network, or the Contoso logical network that I'm actually going to. One of the pains on Hyper-V was the fact that if you wanted to create a virtual switch, you had to visit every single host. You still can visit every single host if you're that way inclined, but I'm lazy. I got a belly for a reason. And I don't want to be able to, I don't want a remote desktop to every single host. I don't really want to do it in PowerShell either. I want to be able to do it in a console that's nice and clicky and GUI-ish that I can go and mess with and visualize. I love PowerShell, and I'll do it in PowerShell because I can do it in a couple of seconds, don't get me wrong. But if I'm not PowerShell inclined, because some people just aren't scripting, their brains just can't adapt to script, and that is absolutely fine. Now we can do it in the GUI. We can create one template in Virtual Machine Manager and apply it to all the different hosts. And it will configure it and apply all the port profiles and classifications for the traffic and so on and so forth that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Now that's a useful feature. So with the logical switch, it's a single entity spanning multiple hosts. It's a template. If VMM decided to go down, the switch will still run independently of VMM because it has the policies and profiles that was last applied by VMM on the actual Hyper-V host. So even if you'd have to bring it back up to make further changes to it and keep the template, but the whole point is that last line, the consistent policy and configuration. Standardization is the key to private cloud. It's the first stepping stone to any, in my opinion, even working with small businesses outside of Microsoft when I did, was standardizing environments so that any single engineer can go in and know your CD drive is Z, your C drive is going to be your OS, your D drive is going to be your application data, you're going to put your Exchange files on your E drive or whatever the case may be. That type of standardization from a small business right up to a large scale enterprise is key to making your lives easier. Consistency, the fact that you now can centrally manage it and deploy it out is really crucial. So, with software-defined networking, we've got a virtual machine that connects to a thing called a VM network. And every machine will connect to a VM network. And the confusing part then, a VM network is associated to a logical network. And then a logical network can then be tied to a physical NIC if you want. Or you can then associate that with an actual logical switch, which will then create a specific profile, i.e. team NICs or a dedicated NIC on the box. And we're going to show you this because, to be honest with you, it's very confusing. And the first few times you look at that, you scratch your head, and you kind of go, what the hell? You go online, you look at blogs, there's not a lot there to say that actually how to do it properly. As I said, it's a relatively new concept. It's going to take a little while to get out there into the world and actually start going. Part of our faults and part of our reasonings for why it's not actually fully there yet is because we didn't have a product called a network virtualization gateway to be able to properly configure it out, which it's being released in the next kind of week or so, a demo one where we can actually start developing out these features. And as Aidan said, a company, Ironport or Ironbridge? Iron Networks, there we go. Iron Networks is scheduled to release an actual production product to actually take care of this in the next couple of days, if not weeks. So it was a few things that we were waiting on. But if you just look at the particular profile, you know, the amount of stuff that we can particularly do, dynamic isolation, and this really goes into the network virtualization piece.